All right. If someone was starting out as a developer for the first time, there's 3 books that I think that we would recommend. We read a ton, but these 3 I think would be the best for someone just getting into the game, just getting into the business. And it's John McNillis, How to Make It in Real Estate Starting Out as a Developer, Gary Rappaport's Investing in Retail Properties, and Hunter Thompson's Raising Capital for Real Estate. Those 3 right there cover your summary of what it all is by John McNillis. You got how to raise your money for it, and then you got the nuts and bolts, down to every detail by Gary Rappaport. I think those 3 really help set the stage for what you're going to get into.
Boom. First up to bat, Investing in Retail Properties with Gary Rappaport. Probably the most influential book for a retail developer or someone that wants to get into retail development.
The one thing I did take out was how to value real estate. A lot of people think it's like the building or the structure, but it's actually like the leasing, the contracts that are in place, the leases that are in place, the tenant mix, all of that. That's really what creates value to the real estate and increasing that NOI. And he started off as a value-add developer, similar to what we're doing. And the book is like a textbook of every little detail about development. So it's hard to pick out one thing, but it's about crafting an entire development and not just focusing on one thing. So that's really like why the book is so important. It's so important. We make everybody at West Hive Capital read the book. There's probably not a person in the country that knows more about retail development than Gary Rappaport. Yeah, he's definitely like an encyclopedia of the game for sure.
Some of my biggest takeaways on this is just the nuances of retail and all the weird specialties of the sector versus any other commercial real estate sector. How to value properties, the health ratio of occupancy costs. For each tenant, I mean, grocers need to only be able to pay so much of a percentage of their rent versus their revenue. Restaurants, the same example, like 8 to 15%. He says, let's call it 10% is a good gauge as you're leasing up these centers. So you got to think grocers have super low margins. They can only pay like 3% of their revenue versus how much they should pay for rent. And then the other takeaway was just the art and the science that I took away. Yeah, the science is all the numbers and all of that type of stuff, all the performance, and then the art is that tenant mix and how each of them feed off of each other and really create that perfect synergy. So then it may not even be the location is the biggest thing. It becomes the tenant mix because people are coming to they're eating, then they're shopping. It goes through all the going home side versus the going to work side. So it's just all the nuances of retail that don't matter in multifamily, that don't matter in office, don't matter in industrial. You can be tucked away in a business park somewhere, and that's just not the case with retail. And he goes over all of these details.
That's a pretty good point. I kind of forgot about that part. It's the nuance. It doesn't matter for multifamily. It doesn't matter for industrial. It doesn't matter for even office. Retail is what side of the street are you on? How do you get into the center? What's the parking like? What's the tenant mix? Can I knock out 2 errands at once?
Yeah.
It's that type of stuff. And I think that's what makes it kind of cool, is to create that hub where it has all these different things in it.
I'd say it's the most complicated sector out there.
I agree.
We heard something in the office one where it was like, oh, you got to be careful. You can't put the lawyer next to.
You couldn't put a therapist next to a lawyer.
Yeah, something like that. But that's minute details on that. But it's in the retail, you need to be careful with that.
Yeah.
I always say that, and I think I got it from this book. It's like that art and the science blend. I hear a lot of other developers that speak on panels talk about that, and it really is. I think retail is the biggest sector of that. It showcases the art of that, right? That tenant mix. So, and even the look of it too is you gotta look pretty. People gotta feel safe and want to walk around in the place. And I think that's the art, the design behind the science, and the numbers still got to make sense. So
yeah,
I think it's a complicated sector to get involved in. Probably easier to just work off spreadsheets all day. I don't think retail. I think you got to go look at it. Anyways, Cool book. I recommend it if you're interested in anything to do with retail development, whether even you're a leasing broker or anything. I think you'd get something out of this thing.
Our next book that we're going to be talking about is Raising Capital for Real Estate by Hunter Thompson. This is a book that so many people have read that have ever tried to raise money for a real estate deal. This is one of the ones that everybody talks about. So the reason this book had such an impact on me is because of how it talked about raising capital. In my mind, before raising money for the very first time, I thought it was more like you're rubbing elbows at a country club and you have charisma and you got to showcase this deal. It's all about your deck and it's all about, how good you can make the deal look. But it's more systematic than that. So when it comes to social media, there's a lot of influencers that are constantly posting about I don't know, their cars and their lifestyle and things like that, and they get people to contact them. They say they have projects, and they get money, and they do it that way. But it's such a small percentage, and that's just using like a social presence to bring in money. But if you look at like real developers, they aren't really like that. They're not flashy. It's not look at me. It's like a system. It's once they know people that could be interested in this, or they like real estate, or just like alternative investing at all. They're just not some people that aren't into the stock market. They want other things, other places to put their money that's more exciting or get bigger returns. Those are the people that we try to contact, and that's what Hunter Thompson talks about. His very first time trying to raise money, he brought a bunch of high net worth people into a room and struck out completely. And the reason he did that is because none of them knew anything about real estate at all. None of them cared about real estate, so none of them wanted to invest. It didn't matter how much money they had. It was easier, and in our business, it's easier sometimes talking to someone with a 9 to 5 job that has a 401k and just has a couple extra $100,000 and just wants to put it somewhere else. And that's what this book taught us. It's sometimes just individuals, just normal people, are more likely to invest, and that's really what it is. And there's a systematic approach. There's standard operating procedures and email blasts and cadences in our CRM and pieces of information to educate them on what we do in the market and retail and new tenants and expansions and all of these different things that we're constantly educating, constantly touching them, and then constantly presenting them with an opportunity. And it's this system that Hunter Thompson talks about that really actually works. And it's all these channels at once to try to bring in capital for deals.
This book was great for the GPLP, where you're trying to bring on limited partners and look for investors inside of a syndication. This book was kind of a textbook on that, how he put systematic procedures in place and marketed to these people. Some of my big takeaways were more about the psychology of the investor. He talked a lot about just thinking that, people with money would be interested in all these alternative investments, which definitely wasn't the case. Some of his criteria was really to just find people that at least had some interest in potentially investing in real estate or understood that. But it was the psychology. My biggest takeaway on this, and I think about it all the time, and why where Kyle and I are always harping on, like, no airs going out of the office, is like, these investors are so sensitive that if they feel that one thing is off and you're given a presentation, and he talks about this, that their mind goes to the worst case scenario. And what is the worst case scenario in investing? Fraud. They go, oh my God, this guy must be a fraudster. He's taking my money. I'll never get it back. What am I doing? And it could just be you said something wrong, you misinterpreted something, whatever it is, something's off, the presentation off. Stupidest thing is there's a misspelling. He gives examples of this, and their mind goes to the worst case scenario, which is completely untrue or just irrational. But it was a big takeaway. It's just like things need to be perfect going out of our office, and they invest because of the trust, right? That goes to that whole saying of, that psychology of it. And it's not necessarily the deal. It's like, I'm investing into you as the sponsor, as the company, as you as a person. I trust what you're doing. The deal is obviously important, but it's not why I'm putting my money with you. But those are my big takeaways with that book. So,
When our first deal, I thought target the people that had the most money and put together the nicest presentation, and that was it. But it was actually the people that like trust us and that have known us in the industry. That's who invested with us. So it was just a different mindset. I thought we're going to get money from here, and we ended up raising a bunch of money from like over here.
Yeah.
And that was just something now that I know people invest in you, the deal second.
Yeah.
However,
Absolutely.
once you do a deal with someone and you give them money back and you've taken something cradle to grave, it's game over.
Yeah.
They will invest with you forever.
I hope it opens up their network,
Yeah.
right? And you can see that already.
Yeah.
And that's what happens.
And that's what happens. Now we get phone calls to the office, but it's like, hey, you just made James like double his money.
Mm-hmm.
How can I invest too?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it works. It's a different type of thing. I thought we just have to get like a list from like people that we're at a country club or something, but none of that worked at all.
You know, it's even funny with the private equity people.
Mm-hmm.
They're similar, which I thought they would have been very just spreadsheet oriented, very mathematical, very just, hey, the deal metrics work. We're going to put money here. But all those conversations we had, they've been following us this whole
Yeah.
time. And now they're coming back to the table like, hey, I've been watching you guys. Okay. And there's that trust built up. I didn't think about that. I thought it was just very transactional, right? And
Yeah.
you know, because we're used to maybe the broker world, that's transactional. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, the investor mindset is something that's new for us, but it's been interesting to read these books. So
Yeah, Making It in Real Estate as a Developer by John McNillis is one of the most influential books that I've read on commercial real estate development ever. It actually kind of motivated me to become a developer because it was the first book that simplified all the different aspects of what a developer was. It wasn't just showing off projects and showing off big deals and the art of the deal type of stuff. It wasn't anything like that. It was like every chapter was, so you need a good team, you need a good lawyer, you need a good broker, you need a good this. You know, here's the construction aspect. It almost was like a wheel of all the different aspects of that you need to understand to become a developer, and then how he started. And he started with like a duplex, and then he said something about never wanting to own another piece of property that someone slept under or something like that. I really liked seeing how such a simple, small book could outline all the aspects of what a developer needs to do the job. And afterwards, I think I was like overconfident, and I was like, "I got this. This is easy." And then, you know, obviously, I learned that it wasn't so easy, as Mr. McNillis kind of put in his book. He actually says it's hard as hell in there, but it's made it seem he simplified it, and I think his simplification of what a developer was kind of helped me wrap my head around it and then want to move forward with that as my career.
it was the same for me too. It was like the team nature of real estate and development. I mean, his book starting out as a developer, and so it was literally like, how do you line up this development team? You don't need to be a lawyer and a contractor and a designer, but it was every chapter was talking about like how to structure them, how to talk to those people, you know, how they should be operating. So lining up this team in your perfect development team. And he did make it sound really simple.
Yeah.
And so I remember literally finishing the book in like 2016. I think we got to see him speak one time.
Yeah,
and he gave us the book.
At UCI.
Yeah. I remember him saying the development process is the same no matter how big, just add some zeros, get used to big numbers. And I remember thinking like,
I remember that in the speech.
Yeah.
To get used to the big numbers, and because he was like a lawyer or had a degree, like that he was working for that, he wasn't afraid of the big scary numbers. And other people were like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
look
oh
at
my
these
God, I had a
zeros."
couple zeros on it. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's a big number. It's like, yeah, it's the same.
It's
Just a
the
couple
same.
zeros on it. And I actually took that to heart. Like, okay. Because I was used to like selling these $5,000 solar packages. Now
Yeah.
$500,000, $5 million. I mean, it was a jump to like move all that money around, but it really was the same. It's all just scale. So
Yeah.
had a lot of takeaways from that. I remember Kyle and I literally finishing this book in like 2016 and like going and meeting with all of these different parties.
Mm-hmm.
We set up lawyer meetings, we set up like contractor meetings, and we hadn't even bought properties. We didn't even know what we were buying.
Yeah.
But we're like, man, we got to get the team lined up. That's the goal
We gotta
here.
get the team
this
lined up.
figured out. Start the new company, and we did.
I remember years later, you and I were a couple years ago. We were on this like panel thing. We got questions from the crowd, and one of the questions was like, "What is your skill set?" It was directed at me, and I remember thinking like, "Wow, there's a lot of people here, and I'm not quite sure what my skill set is." So I tried to answer it like the best that I could, but my initial reaction answer, just like that, was I don't really have any skills. I just know how to like bring people in and form these awesome teams so everybody else makes me look good and surround myself with the very best people. And that was like the most honest answer I could give, but it was totally true. And it originated from reading this book. It was like a developer was only as good as all the team members that they had around them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like what I kind of kept thinking in my head. Well, I'm not going to do that bad as long as I have the best leasing broker and this lawyer gets me out of trouble, and I have a contractor that's really going to be honest, and a great architect and a great construction manager,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a good relationship with the city, and I know all the tenants, and if I could just manage all these little pieces individually and have the best people in place, then we would be okay, and the deal's going to end up working out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it.
Yep.
because I can't do any of those jobs.
No, yeah.
And I still can't. I
Yeah.
still can't do almost a single one of them. I know a little bit about all of them, but I always defer to like these people that are the best in their class at these skills.
Yeah, it was it was eye opening. A lot of these books, really, why we were probably here today. We really took it serious to
Yeah,
kind of read all this stuff.
yeah.
So
And it ended up being that development is definitely a team sport.
yeah, I literally wrote that down. It is not a solo sport; it is a team sport.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta have a good team around you, and there's no truer statement. I mean, try to go do this yourself. Good luck, buddy.
Yeah, and if you're
It'd
trying to
be a
get
nightmare.
into development, I highly recommend that one.
Yeah. So those are our summaries of the 3 best books to get into commercial real estate. We had Gary Rappaport's Investing in Retail Properties, which is the nuts and bolts of really owning a shopping center, developing retail. We had Hunter Thompson's Raising Capital for Real Estate, which is how to go out there and raise money and the psychology behind raising money and get people to trust you. And then the one that kind of encompasses all of it, lining up the team, making it in real estate, starting out as a developer with John McNellis. I think those are the 3 books that really set anyone up for success in commercial real estate, give you at least a good foundation of like what the industry is all about. So,
Yep, I agree.
Awesome job, guys.
Cool.
That was
Thank you.
great.
Thank you so much.
cool.
No problem.